October 22nd, 2025, emergency responders were called to a home in Yeosu, South Korea. Inside was 4-month-old baby named Haeduen, not actually his real name. He has been alive for just 133 days. In those 133 days, he would suffer unimaginable torture. Before I begin, I will be showing some home camera footage that I will warn you about before playing. But also, because I show this footage, I'm not sure if YouTube will take my video down. But I believe in telling the full story of what happened to a victim, not only the parts that are easy for us to hear or watch. I will censor it, however, because it is horrible. Sometimes the truth is difficult. And while I will always be mindful of the victim and the people who love them, I also believe their stories deserve to be told honestly. I had someone comment last week, or a couple weeks ago when I did my last video, that they didn't believe these cases should be told in such detail. I feel if you don't tell the actual facts of the case, why even bother telling the victim's story? If I was the victim of one of these cases, I would want whoever tells my story to tell it all, including every detail that the monster had did to me. I would want you to know how evil they were so I could get justice and so others could learn how evil people can actually be. Sometimes we want to hide our heads in the sand and look the other way. I would want the person responsible to be remembered for the choices they made, not for the softened versions of the truth. Because sometimes the truth is difficult to hear. Sometimes we want to look away from the things that make us uncomfortable. But I don't believe looking away makes those things disappear. And when we tell the stories of the victims, I believe we have a responsibility to remember that their lives were real. Their suffering was real. And what happened to them deserves to be told honestly and respectfully. I just had to get that out of the way. Now let me say, welcome to the Murder She Said, where apparently I go into too much detail on these true crime cases. Sometimes, most of the time, more than other channels on YouTube. Because honestly, I don't care if I get paid on every video. Because that's not what my channel is about. My channel is about victims and their right to justice. Let me add before I begin that my mic may not sound as good today because I did leave the air conditioner on. I have my 2 dogs in here with me. And I don't want to burn up, but I especially don't want my dogs to burn up. So there's going to be a little loud roaring noise sometimes, and I hope you will accept that because it is like 105 degrees outside. And this she shed can feel like hell if there's no air conditioner. And we got this little window unit, and we have to have it on, or we may die in here. Literally die. And it literally would be a murder she shed then. Okay? Got it? If justice is something that you believe in too, just make sure and hit the like and subscribe button so you can find this Southern gal again in this big YouTube world. By the way, my name is Holly, and I would love for you to join us here at the Murder She Shed, usually each week. It's been kind of crazy lately, so it's been over 2 weeks. Also, I'd like to add that most sources online state that Haeduen was a boy, referring to him as their son, but I also seen where he is referred to as a girl. So either way, for this video, I will say the gender is a boy, because most things actually said he was a boy. But you know, it can get lost in translation, so I'm not really sure. Now let's begin Haedun's story. To understand how this tragedy unfolded, we need to go back to the very beginning, to Haedun's birth and the earliest weeks of his short life. Haeduen was born on June 16, 2025 in Yeosu, South Korea. He arrived healthy with no congenital conditions and no need for NICU care. At the time, the family already had an older child. During the final stage of Haedun's mother's pregnancy, she was hospitalized with uterine contractions. The timing forced her to miss their first child's birthday celebration, an event she later referenced with clear disappointment. Family members would later say that Haedun's mother believed that Haeduen took away the attention from her firstborn baby. She believed she was always having to cater to the newborn's needs and was not able to give to her firstborn, enough of her time, which that is normal. A newborn takes up all the time in the world. That is so normal. Your oldest one doesn't get as much attention during that time when they're tiny, small like that. But apparently to other sources, she was very obsessed with her oldest child, and this bothered her greatly. that little baby took up so much time in her life. In the first 2 months after Haedeun's birth, the mother's social media suggested an ordinary, happy family. The couple had met 3 years earlier and had married. The older child appeared healthy and well cared for. The mother's Instagram and personal blog showed wedding photos and pictures of the new baby and the oldest child. And, like a lot of social media, it appeared completely normal. The thing about social media, it sometimes hides what's underneath, what's really happening. We believe the pretty stuff. To outside eyes, including acquaintances, their married life had seemed normal. But that picture began to shift after the second child arrived. The mother's blog posts from this period reflected growing emotional strain, consistent with what some later would describe as possible postpartum depression. Now, this is something I never suffered from, but some women have it severe. So I have no way of knowing anything about it because I did not have that problem. Others of you might have had that problem. You can leave a comment below how it might have affected you. But apparently it affected Haedeun's mom severely. So Haedeun's mom was a physical therapist by profession, a role that made her a mandatory reporter of child abuse under Korean law. Also a woman that knew how your body and different parts of your body can affect your well-being, which makes what she did so much worse in my eyes. The father was a heavy equipment operator. He took parental leave after Haedeun's birth, and then he worked delivery jobs just to help support the family. Haedeun's mother became his primary caregiver. Whether she continued working or had stepped back from her job remains unclear, but by all accounts, she was the one at home full-time with both of those little children. What looked from the outside like a typical young family adjusting to a second baby already began to fracture in ways that would only become clear later. You got to think about it. The older child was only a year older than this baby. The oldest child was not even out of diapers either. It needed a lot from its mother too. 2 little small children, which if you're not mentally prepared for that can be a lot on a mother. Not that I'm making any excuses for what she did because there is none. After watching the videos, I definitely see there was no excuses. The outward appearance of a normal family began to collapse in the 3rd month of Haedeun's life. One person who visited the couple's home heard a loud hitting sound from another room and heard Haedeun crying. When the acquaintance next saw the baby, he had a bruise on his little cheek. This person never reported what they witnessed until after Haedeun had passed. At around 12:30 p.m. on October 22nd, 2025, the fire department received an emergency call from the birth mother. She claimed her 4-month-old baby had fallen into the bathtub and was not breathing. According to a paramedic at the scene, he claimed the infant was barely the size of an adult forearm, yet bore the marks of a repeated trauma. And he said baby Haedeun clung tightly to his finger while he was being transported to the hospital as if fighting to survive. At the hospital, surgeons opened Haedeun's little belly and encountered approximately 500 cubic centimeters of free blood. Imaging and examination revealed 23 fractures distributed across the ribs, head, arms, and legs. He also has widespread bruising covering his whole body, some old and some newer, which this showed long-term abuse, intracranial hemorrhage, and internal organ damage also. He underwent 2 emergency surgeries but died 4 days later on October 26th. The official cause of death was hemorrhagic shock and multi-organ failure, secondary to repeated blunt force trauma. At 69 centimeters long, Haedeun only lived 133 days after birth. Later, the attending physician would say, when we opened his abdomen, blood gushed out. Unless organs are torn by external force, this doesn't happen, he said. For a 4-month-old to have brain hemorrhage and so many broken bones, it's a clear sign of external trauma. Even though the autopsy clearly showed the baby had not drowned, that was not the cause of his death. Haedeun's mother denied abuse, claiming it was a drowning accident that happened while she briefly stepped away. She asserted the bruises occurred during the rescue process and some were from falls. To back what the mother was saying about the baby falling, Haedeun's father brought to the police station a small video clip from home surveillance footage. On this footage that occurred 8 days before Haedeun's death, the baby is seen rolling off the bed. He claimed it explained Haedeun's brain hemorrhage and other injuries as the result of an accidental fall. This was not the smartest idea to show the police that he had video footage inside his home, considering he knew what the other footage contained. He absolutely knew because he had threatened his wife with the footage in the past during conflicts that they had had in their marriage. He also could be seen taking his older daughter out of the room while baby Haedeun was being abused. Because officers now had the knowledge of the home camera footage, prosecutors were able to secure 11 days of footage amounting to 4,800 files of abuse. The contents of these recordings would shock even seasoned investigators. Investigations revealed 19 instances of severe abuse in just 11 days. I am going to show some clips, but I'm going to put a timestamp of when these clips will be ending when I'm done. They're disturbing, but I'm going to blur them some because they are so traumatizing even to me, as I said. I'm a person that has researched hundreds, perhaps thousands of true crime cases. However, I'm also a mother and a Grammy, so these shook me to my core. In the video clips, indications of ongoing abuse were observed, showing his mother holding Haedeun upside down, stepping on his face with a foot, and covering his face with a pillow. Also, she can be seen jumping on the baby and repeatedly grabbing him by the ankles and throwing him onto the bed, striking or beating this tiny baby while he's crying. In one particular video, even though this baby had been abused severely by his mother, he can still be seen smiling and responding with coos at his mom. He was too little and innocent to understand the evil monster who had birthed him. On the day of the fatal incident, October 22nd, 2025, audio from the footage captured roughly 18 minutes of thuds and the infant's cries and screams. 11:46 that night, Haedeun had a bowel movement, and this enraged his mother. Babies have bowel movements. It's a natural thing. If it upsets you, maybe don't have a baby. But apparently, this enraged her that he would dare use the bathroom. So this is when his mother took Haedeun to the bathroom. Cameras were only located in the bedroom and living room of the home, so therefore in the bathroom, only audio could be picked up. Investigators were able to enhance the audio coming from the bathroom, and what they heard would shock them. Inside the bathroom, Haedeun's mother can be heard yelling, "Die, please, just die. And I'm going to kill you. And I don't want you. I don't need you." When questioned, his mother claimed the noises were from hitting stacked bathtubs, not her whacking the daylights out of her own child. I don't even want to know what she was doing in that bathroom. It was disturbing enough at what I saw on these videos. After this prolonged abuse, his mother placed Haedeun in a baby bathtub with the water running and left him there. The bathtub was her attempt to stage the death as an accident after this severe abuse. It was also found that although Haedeun's mother noticed that his breathing had become normal about 12:03 p.m., she did not call emergency services until 12:30 p.m., 27 minutes later. A beer can was found at the scene, and the mother was reportedly intoxicated at the time. The The couple's older child showed no signs of abuse. Prosecutors initially charged the mother with child abuse resulting in death. After reviewing the full home camera evidence, they upgraded the charge to child abuse homicide. While Haeduen lay dying in the hospital fighting for the last 4 days of his short life, his father left the hospital and visited an institution establishment. He also visited a prostitute while his son was getting an autopsy. When acquaintance and emergency responders later spoke about the signs of abuse they had seen, the father would threaten them. He made angry calls to media outlets that reported the case, warning that he would sue anyone who spread false information. Haeden's father was charged with child neglect and with intimidation of witnesses. Both, of course, were arrested. On April 23, 2026, the judge spoke with unusual bluntness during their trial. Haeduen, the court said, had been abused for roughly half of his 133 days alive. His mother had treated him not as a child, but as an outlet for her frustration. The evidence was so disturbing that the judge also remarked, just hearing the audio is deeply distressing. The abuse is far worse than what is described in writing, and that is absolutely true. The mother was sentenced to life imprisonment. The father received 4 years and 6 months for neglect and for threatening those who tried to speak for the child. The prosecutor had asked for 10 years for him. Even then, 10 years to me doesn't feel like enough. He saw his wife depressed and never attempted to help her care for their 2 children. He saw his wife abusing his tiny son and walked away, simply ignoring what was occurring. He allowed his oldest child to witness this abuse. 4 years seems like another slap in the face for little baby Haeduen. The dad's only defense was he claimed he didn't realize his wife's actions were abuse. Apparently he thought holding a baby upside down and an adult bouncing on top of a tiny baby and a baby getting smothered by a pillow wasn't abuse. Prosecutors told the court that all her years of work she had never encountered a case that left her so heartbroken. After medical and child protection experts had seen the videos from inside the home, they stated that it was a miracle that Haeduen had lived 4 months being that severely abused. If the videos had not existed, Haeden's mom would have only received 3 to 15 years in prison. 3 years in prison. In South Korea, abuse that causes death without proven intent to kill is not as severely punished as it is in the U.S. South Korea's lower average sentence lengths for many violent crimes and almost never carries out the death penalty. In the final weeks of Haeden's life, the only voice that answered his cries was the one telling him to die. The only hands that held him were the ones that threw him, stepped on him, and finally left him in running water. Towards the end, he was still trying to smile at the person who was supposed to keep him safe, and the woman whose last words to her baby was, "I don't need you or want you." On social media and some blogs, there have been claims that both set of grandparents allegedly refused to take responsibility for the funeral. As a result, prosecutors or other officials may have had to arrange a simple funeral. However, these claims remain unconfirmed by mainstream reporting. As we close this case, let's remember Haeduen not for the terrible way his life ended, but for the precious little life he was. A tiny boy who was only here for only 133 days, but whose story will hopefully never be forgotten. May you forever rest in peace, little Haeduen. I know for one, it's a story I will never forget after seeing those videos. He will always be on my heart and mind. I know he's too innocent to feel betrayal. He didn't understand what was happening to him, but he was so betrayed in his short life by the parents that were supposed to love him. And that in itself is so heartbreaking. Haeduen and sad. Why are all my cases always so sad? I'm surprised y'all still watch them. They're so depressing. And I'm sorry. Let me make it up to you and let you say bye to Simon and Max. Hopefully that will help with your sadness. And mine too. They always help my sadness. Max, Simon. Say bye. Say we'll see you next time at the Murder She Said. And be nice for a change. That would be nice. If you'd just be nice to your brother. That would be nice. That would be a nice offering. That would be a nice ending. If we just could be nice. Make our day better. We're going to go ride the four-wheeler. Oh, God. We'll ride the four-wheeler. And we'll see you next time at the Murder She Said. camera's moving. I'm sorry if you get seasick, dog sick, whatever. I love you guys. See you next time. Be here, be square.